So my name is Dagmar Vorlíček, and I'm a university assistant at the University of Vienna at the Department of Sociology, and also a visiting fellow at the School of Global Studies at the University of Sussex. And my research is quite interdisciplinary. Even though I work at the Department of Sociology, I started studying international relations, and till now I actually study international politics, but more from a sociological perspective. So I grew up in Brno, the second largest city of the Czech Republic. I would say I am very much a child of the political transformation of Czech Republic after the end of the communism. So I was growing up while watching and reading the news about Czech Republic joining the EU and NATO, and then all these big events that suddenly the Czech Republic was also shaped by, like 9/11, the terrorist attack on the United States, or then the war in Iraq. And I guess I was interested in how to understand this big world, and my country becoming, at least back then, it seemed to me like my country becoming part of this big world. And so I think this very much drove me to study international relations. Not really. I wouldn't say there was not really any specific person or moment. I actually grew up in a very, let's say, natural, scientific-oriented environment. My parents are doctors, and I went to high school which was oriented in mathematics and these STEM subjects. So there was not really an encouragement to study social sciences or humanities. But I would say maybe because of that, I lacked the capacity, I lacked the tools to really understand what's going on beyond the daily events, beyond the current affairs. I think this drove me to study social sciences and come up to understand what is going on in the world on my own terms. Because this is part of the big world. I was interested in the study program in Prague. It was at the University of Economics, International Studies and Diplomacy, which back then seemed to me as a great start to combine more general education about economics and politics, and also to learn about international studies. So I must say I didn't really have a specific topic. I was genuinely and generally curious and kind of open to what I will find out. And this was, I would say, a good start for that. I think both at the professional and personal level, it was really a massive experience. I studied in Zurich, in Amsterdam, so I spent a lot of time abroad, and later I worked in Switzerland and in England. I think at a personal level it is interesting to live life in a society which sees the world differently, which has a different history, for instance, of the European integration, which has maybe a history of colonialism, which maybe doesn't know really much about Central and Eastern Europe and have a lot of prejudices about Central and Eastern Europe. So I think already at this personal level, it was quite a profound experience. And at the professional level, what this taught me was the curiosity about issues and not so much about I work within a specific discipline and I need to contribute to this particular discipline. I think it was very helpful for me to open up to different perspectives and get used to asking questions rather than thinking in some narrow boxes. This is what my discipline wants me to do and wants me to study. I think that living in Austria, one encounters at a daily level that we used to be part of the same monarchy, Czech Republic and Austria, through institutions, through architecture, through talking with people, observing their mentality. One can see at this level of everyday life, that there is a lot of continuity from the past and a lot of similarities with the Czech Republic. And my approach to international relations is to include these entities and practices in the study of international politics. Because I believe that international politics is not something that is happening only at the United Nations conferences or in the parliament or maybe at the battlefield of Ukraine or Iraq, but it is way more complex. And we all experience international politics in everyday life. And this is how I look at this topic. And I specifically study the role of science and technology and expertise in international politics because in the last, I would say, 100 years, they have become completely vital for the functioning of international politics. Scientists and engineers have been involved in the development of weapons, in the development of national security strategies, have been involved in designing climate policies, health policies, and eventually they started to play bigger and bigger role in advising governments and designing certain policies and practices themselves. And so I think it is important to focus on them also as actors and as players of international politics. That's a big topic, of course. In many ways, no. I believe that Czechia is doing these days excellent research. I know a lot of great researchers who really do world-class research in social sciences and beyond, and the same goes for Austria. Both are small countries which have to find their ways and their specializations in the international scene. And both are also countries which are going through big political developments that do not necessarily lead to a bigger support of science, and especially social sciences. But I still observe certain difference in the academic culture, and especially in the understanding of social sciences as a relevant field of expertise. Czech Republic is a country which has very strong specialization in STEM fields, mathematics, physics, biology, and so forth, coming mostly from the time of communism, where these fields were also heavily supported, funded, and so forth. And with that, I believe comes certain skepticism towards social sciences as a relevant field of research, as a relevant field of expertise that can contribute to the public discussions on big societal issues. And this is something that I believe is still somehow better in Austria, that these fields of research are more respected, both, let's say, in the political circles as well as in public. At this point, I enjoyed it, but things change. The article reacts to the rising role of big data in politics in general. And there has been already a massive debate on big data, typically in the sense of big data collected through surveillance or commercial activities, but we typically mean digital data. Since I've been studying topics related to health and biological security, I was wondering what happens in this realm with big data. And there is a lot happening with big data. There is a field of biobanking, which collects large biological samples and medical data about people, volunteers, who voluntarily give their data, their samples, to so-called biobanks. We can find biobanks these days almost in every country. And in Europe, for instance, there is an organization called BBMRI-ERIC, which provides an infrastructure to these biobanks and organizes conferences and harmonizes practices, how to run these biobanks and how to collaborate between these biobanks. And so I got to collaborate with this infrastructure, with the BBMRI-ERIC, and I conducted research on how these experts, meaning ethicists, lawyers, researchers, managers of these biobanks, how do they understand what can go wrong, very simply put, with this big medical data? Because I haven't really seen any debate on this particular issue. While they pay a lot of attention, for instance, to ethics and privacy and legal issues, through my research I have learned that there is a big gap to pay more attention exactly to the prospects of, let's say, misuse of this big medical data, to the prospects of, for instance, states misusing this data for reasons other than research or for racially motivated research. And these are challenges to which the biobanks are not, in my view, yet fully prepared. At least when the research was done, this was an issue that was quite marginal for these actors. For me, academia has always been a collective enterprise, and I have benefited immensely from great mentors who have taught me, great teachers, and also having great peer circle with whom we almost on a daily basis consult issues. And so I find it very natural that I can also give back to the community. I enjoy teaching, supervision, mentoring, and shaping the debate on international relations, especially in this region. So the journal, which I currently lead, together with a colleague from ETH Zurich, has regional roots in the Central and Eastern Europe. And I think my vision for this journal for the upcoming years that we are leading the journal is to have a better conversation on international relations from this region and on the region in the field of international relations. So this is my way to promote that or cultivate that sphere for doing that. I have two, let's say, bigger projects right now, which I'm quite excited about. One is edited volume, so a project that brings together different researchers, each contributing some chapter. And the edited volume focuses on a topic that I, together with my co-editor, Jan Daniel from Prague, call security leftovers. And so we study security leftovers, which we understand as remnants of security policies of the past, from bunkers to different military infrastructures, to certain surveillance technologies, refugee camps that were designed in the past with a specific security purpose, which is no longer relevant, valid. And we ask, what happens with these leftovers? How do they live in the world? How do they shape the way we think about the world these days? And I think coming from Central and Eastern Europe, one has this very lived experience of security leftovers, growing up and observing, walking through Czech Republic and its nature. So this is something that I'm very excited about, especially since we have a collection of chapters from truly the whole world. And my second project that I work on is my own book, which is about the transformation of military research in Czech Republic. And it's again this, let's say, micro-sociological study of how a specific institution has changed over years in the changing political environment, and how it also contributed to the political changes in this context in the Czech Republic. The main thing is to stay interested. And I believe that one does that not only through reading, watching news, but also looking for inspiration at going to museum, going to interesting public lectures, and also finding a group of people with whom you can talk about those issues. So breeding this curiosity and having good conversations with equally interesting and interested people. I think this is something that is important in order to stay curious about the world and stay motivated about this type of research.